Play clock at 5. Pass is intercepted at the goal line by Malcolm Butler.
Yes, he did. He gives it to Henry.
Quick snap. Breeze. Pass is incomplete. No flag.
4th and goal. And they're going to snap it, and it's Trey Burton who throws caught. Foles, touchdown.
NFL trade deadline. For a lot of the time, it's a good moment for a team, especially if they're in playoff contention. You know, they bring in a couple big name guys. They bolster up that offense, that defense, sometimes that special teams even. And they go ahead, they get ready to make that playoff push and eventually try to work their way to a championship. But on the other side of that coin, you got teams that are selling because they're not good and they're not going to make the playoffs and they're trying to get better for the future. But in doing so, in preparing for the future, they potentially have to get rid of some very key assets and some people that have been legends of the franchise. And this year's casualty is going to be Bronco fans such as me and Von Miller. It's been a tough week so far. A lot to talk about, lots to unpack with Von. All I gotta say is normally I don't have the jersey on in shows, but I had to throw it on because, man, he deserves it. It's a tough week, but we're going to get through this. And if you're one of those Bronco fans like myself, I am with you. I hear you. I understand you. And most importantly, I am here for you. If you're a fan of the Rams, you better win the Super Bowl. And if you're a fan of any other team that might have made some good moves this week, good for you guys, because there's a lot that didn't. Of course, I'm your host, Ross Allen. This is our NFL Week 8 breakdown, and like I said, there is a lot to unpack here because NFL trade deadline has come and gone. Week 8 has come and gone, and there is a lot that happened in this last week of football, whether it be some trades, whether it be backup quarterbacks absolutely crushing it, whether it be wide receivers absolutely doing the opposite of whatever it is from crushing it. Look at you, Cardinals. We'll talk about you. Matt Nagy. Ooh, boy, what did we learn this week? The Rams, are they the team to beat now? Are they the clear Super Bowl favorites? And how bad are these Lions team? How bad is this Lions? As bad as the 0-16 team back in 2008? We'll wait and see on that one. Of course, then we're going to talk about some teams that are under 500 but still have a shot. Which one has the best one, though? And, of course, we're going to break down a little trade deadline winners and losers here. Of course, and then I'm going to bring you my power rankings. And then none other than, how else do we end the show? The Nene of the Week. But, thank you so much for joining us here today. Of course, if you're starving for some fourth and long NFL action, of course, you can find us at a couple places this week because I've been making appearances on the Brew Party podcast and been making appearances on review and preview as well. So, of course, everything will be linked. Most importantly, just go on to our socials, Twitter at Fourth Long Radio, and you can find all of our stuff there, such as the links to some of the shows that I've been guest appearing on. So if you need that much, I don't blame you. I love hearing myself talk as well. In fact, no, I don't. My voice is awful. But, of course, we all think that. I still don't understand why that's the thing, why our voice sounds so bad in recordings, but it sounds decent when you're talking. That's a mystery that we'll see if science can solve. If they solved it already, I'm just ignorant, haven't seen it. But we're going to get things started here first with our winners and losers. Starting things off with, of course, we're always going to go with the winners. And we got to talk about these two backup quarterbacks that I did not see this coming. Apparently, there's only one person in the world that saw this coming, and that was the guy that put, was it a $1,000 bet or $100? It was $100 or $1,000. I think it's $1,000 bet on Mike White being the week's passing yards leader, and he was right because Mike White for the New York Jets steps up and in his first career start throws for 405 yards and a few touchdowns. A couple interceptions, but that's to be expected. And I think one of the craziest things about this is that the Jets had him throw the ball 45 times. You'll hardly have your normal starter throw the ball that many times. You normally don't want your starter to throw more than 30 times, if I'm being honest, because you got to be balanced with a good run attack. But the Jets put their trust into, essentially before this week, some no-name guy. Throw the ball 45 times, and it works out for them as they pull the opposite off the Cincinnati Bengals. And Bengals, man, I put you on the power rankings. I thought you were good. I thought you were a contender. You're the best team in the AFC going into this week, and you blow it against the Jets. Unbelievable. Thanks for making me look so bad on this one, but is what it is. We all can't be great on that one. But Mike White, fantastic in the same sense of the word too as well, because let's talk about Cooper Rush. Another backup quarterback stepping for the still injured Dak Prescott. He throws for 325 yards and a couple tutters in this one and leads the Cowboys to victory on Monday Night Football. Sunday Night Football. Man, I kind of wish this was a Monday night game because a Monday night game wasn't great. That's what happens when you have the struggling Chiefs and the Giants play football on primetime. Shouldn't have done that one. To be fair, though, for the Cowboys and Cooper Rush, it does help that you're playing against Kirk Cousins because he's not great on primetime. I think since 2000, out of all quarterbacks that have played at least 25 games, it was something like that. He has the worst winning percentage in primetime. Not great for Kirk Cousins. I think it was last season where he just got his first Monday Night Football win. So, of course, that helps. Another winner for this week is going to be the Green Bay Packers because they took on the Arizona Cardinals, and they looked good against the Arizona Cardinals, and they beat the Arizona Cardinals on the road, and that's with Aaron Rodgers having almost none of his wide receivers there on Thursday Night Football. Aaron Rodgers has a decent game in himself. I mean, Aaron Jones finally has a good game. Well, I guess not finally. He's had one. In terms of fantasy, he's been killing me this year. But at least he finally got one. Had a good game for me. Got me some decent amount of points. Been kind of a buzz up until now. But thank you for him to showing out. And they almost didn't win this game. They arguably should have lost this game. If A.J. Green gets his head around, they probably lose this game. If A.J. Green know what the hell the play is, they probably lose this game. But hey, Green Bay Packers, depleted, doesn't matter. They go out in prime time on the road. They get a big win. They've now have won 7 straight games, and they are one of, if not the best team in the NFC. So, of course, they got a big win there. And I have the third one here is almost surprising, but let's talk about this Patriots defense. I mean, the Patriots team in itself has been kind of coming along recently. And most recently, they had their biggest win of the year against the Los Angeles Chargers on the road as well. Mac Jones didn't do a whole lot, but he didn't necessarily need to when you have Adrian Phillips getting 2 interceptions and a pick 6 on that one as well. He had the 2 interceptions that Justin Herbert threw on the day, and as a whole, the Patriots defense held up pretty well, held Justin Herbert to only about 220 yards here. The rushing yards were limited. They didn't make it to 50. I don't think they made it to 40, to be honest, as well. And that's good stuff. That's really good team defense. This Patriots team has been looking good as of late, like I said, and they're almost kind of starting to come into their own. It took a little bit of time to develop early on in the season, but now they have a demolishing win over the New York Jets. They have a good win against a good Chargers team. They almost beat the Cowboys. They almost beat the Bucks. And they did have 2 bad of games against the Dolphins there earlier as well. This team could be 6-2. Being honest, this is not a bad Patriots team, and it definitely helps when you have that defense coming together there. But on the other side of the coin, we got the losers, and like I said, from one of the winners, opposite of that is the loser, and that's AJ Green, because he possibly cost the Cardinals a win here on Thursday Night Football, and it was kind of a tough play. You can't put all the blame on him because it appeared that Kyler Murray put out a silent check or a silent audible on that one. It's just something that wide receiver has to be paying more attention to. The way he came out the ball and was blocking looked like he thought it was a run play, maybe to the opposite side or the middle. It wasn't. It was a pass that Kyler Murray was trying to get right to him. So that's a mental mistake, and that's a mental mistake that cost him a pretty big win. Second loser is going to be Matt Nagy because, of course, on the week that Matt Nagy isn't there because he got the sickness with the Rona, that's when Justin Fields actually pretty much has his first good game of his career. Looking back, he's been bad. This Bears team has been bad. Justin Fields threw 3 interceptions last week. Didn't look good. He's been sacked and crap done. Now, what they do, and he's been very limited in use in the run game, where you have the most athletic quarterback of the draft, and you're not using him in the run game. You're not using his mobility to your advantage. That's a huge mistake, an unbelievably large mistake. But they're actually able to do that because Justin Fields had 10 carries for over 100 yards and a touchdown there. He looked good. He had that one carry for like 30 yards where he made a bunch of people miss and looked great. We need more of that. We need to see more of that. And it just goes to show you that the Bears don't need Matt Nagy. In fact, the Bears are probably more successful with Matt Nagy. I know that's not a groundbreaking statement. That's something that we've been knowing. But this is just even more solid proof that Matt Nagy is garbage. And he should not be coaching a football team, at least not at the head coach level. And he definitely should not be coaching Justin Fields because all he's doing is limiting his potential and possibly ruining his career. Last loser of the week is going to be a category that I fall into, and that's Denver Broncos fans, because you lose the key to your franchise. You lose the best pass rusher of his era. You lose pretty much the last remaining part of that Super Bowl 50 team. Now, there's one player left on the roster from that Super Bowl team. That's Brad McManus, the kicker. And although I love Brad McManus, I mean, the Gooch Splitter is an unbelievable player. He's one of the best kickers in the league. It's all you got, man. You lose over 50 guys in the span of 5 years. 50 guys. 5 years. That's a ridiculous number. And it hurts. And it hurts to lose Vaughn. We'll see if he comes back, though. He says he's still open to returning. He is on the contract year this year. So, hypothetically, a plan that I would not mind is to have him play out his contract, and then the Broncos re-sign him in the offseason. The Rams don't get him. Essentially, they get a second and third round pick for free. Oh, that would make me very happy. Is that going to happen? Probably not, because I don't deserve anything good in life. But can it happen? It can. And I hope it does. Now, the next thing, we're going to move right on into our buy or sell segment here with a list of our overreactions. But, of course, before we do, just want to make sure to let you know that, of course, you can find all of our stuff over at thefourthandlong.com/NFL. Find us on Twitter, on Instagram. You can find us on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, anywhere you catch this, anywhere you're listening to right now. You can find us anywhere else as well. Got a lot of good stuff coming up. Of course, like I mentioned earlier in the show, making some guest appearances this week. You'll want to go check those ones out. Got UFC coming out later. In the interview that we just released on Tuesday is with undefeated MMA fighter Chase Peel, just coming off a 45-second knockout a couple weeks ago at Front Street Fights 22, and now he has his eyes set solely on lightweight gold. You want to go check that one now because he's a big up-and-comer. You won't want to miss that one. But let's get into things here with our buy or sell segment and our overreactions. The first one I have for you this week is one going with off of the last little bit of that loser segment, and that is the Rams are clear Super Bowl favorites now that they have Von Miller. And it's really, you could definitely make this argument. They have one of the better defenses in the league. This is before adding one of the better pass rushers in the league. Now, Aaron Donald doesn't have to do it all himself with that pass rush. Now, they got Leonard there in the linebacking core as well, being able to make some plays. But now you got Von frickin' Miller coming off the edge. Are you kidding me? You have Aaron down the middle, already requiring 2 people at least to block him, sometimes 3. That's going to clear up so much space for Von to come off the edge. And this is already with a good defensive backfield that's going to have to make the quarterback hold on to the ball, maybe pump it once, maybe look to the second read. That's just going to give Von Miller that much more time to get home. This is a good defense, and this already have one of the better offenses in the league as well, Matt Stafford. He might be the clear MVP favorite at this point. He's having an unbelievable season. Cooper Kupp is having a season where he's still on pace to beat Calvin Johnson's single-season receiving record. And he has more touchdowns than Calvin Johnson did in that year already. And their running game isn't bad. Henderson isn't bad. The offensive line isn't bad. This is a really, really, really complete team. And this is a team that should be able to win that division as well. And they should be able to go far. This team should be able to go far. But the only problem is, let's look at their competition right now, you got to look at the Green Bay Packers. You have to look at the Buffalo Bills. It's probably, and still, even though they lost to the Packers, the Arizona Cardinals. You got those probably 4 teams that you really have to look at now in terms of Super Bowl contention. Now, you probably even throw the Titans in there as well. But I'd say it's down to 4 teams right now, realistically. That's the Cardinals, that's the Packers, that's the Bills, and that's the Rams. That's bad news for the Rams because 2 of those 3 are coming out of the NFC. It's going to be a hard time for you to even make the Super Bowl, let alone win it. And the Bills right now might be a better team as well. Oh, man, I need that. I need that. It's really hard to say where these teams are because the Rams and the Packers have the better offense than the Cardinals do. The Rams and the Packers possibly also have the better defense. The Rams out of those 3 had the better defense. The Bills' defense is really coming along this year. They're competitive with the Rams for sure. That's almost a toss-up. And those offenses almost a toss-up there as well with how Josh Allen's playing and how Matt Stafford's playing this year. They're very, very comparable in talent level and in production level this year. They're both up there in the MVP talk. Same thing with Kyler Murray and Aaron Rodgers. They all have MVP quarterbacks right now. The Bills have an easier path to the Super Bowl out of the AFC currently. They have the easier path. The Rams don't. The Rams still are. They're not even in first place in the division right now. Of course, they're still tied with the Cardinals. They're both 7-1, but they did have that loss to the Arizona Cardinals, which is why they're second. So they have that obstacle. They have the obstacle of the Packers. Then they have the obstacle of actually getting to the Super Bowl and having to play, quite probably at this point, the Bills. So they're easily a Super Bowl contender. Easily. Super Bowl favorite? Possibly. Are they a clear Super Bowl favorite? No. It's a very, very muddy mess with those 4 to 5 teams. And it's going to be a lot of fun to watch. That's for damn sure. Now, the next statement here is that the Cleveland Browns are frauds. Now, of course, it's been a tough time to be a Browns fan right now because that factory of sadness, it looks like it's starting to rev back up. And it's looked like it's starting to pump everything back out again, especially after Week 8 where they lose they lose to the Steelers in just a bad game of football. This was ugly. It hurt to watch. It was almost worse than trying to watch the Broncos and Washington football team game. That was not the good game either. This was a bad game. And they've been having some shortcomings recently. They lose to the Steelers, who are not a good team. They were sellers at the deadline. They barely beat the Broncos, who are not a good team. You get blown out by the Cardinals. You lose a good game against the Chargers, but you give up a lot of points there. You beat the Vikings in a bad game. You blow out the Bears. You beat the Texans. You barely lose to the Chiefs on opening week. This team right now, they sit at the bottom of their division. They sit at the bottom of the AFC North. They're 4-4 right now. They're behind the Steelers, who are 4-3, the Bengals, who are 5-3, and the Ravens, who are 5-2. They're saying they're right there with that 500 winning percentage. The Steelers are at 571. Baker Mayfield's been disappointing this year. He has missed a game, but he's still been disappointed. Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt have been great when healthy, but they've missed games. But, I mean, you got Dennis Johnson there, so it doesn't really matter. Your receiving game has been poor. It was disappointing that you didn't sell Odell Beckham Jr. at the trade deadline, and your defense has been giving up way, way, way too many points. This was a team that a lot of people thought they would be in the AFC Championship game at least. Hell, maybe even Super Bowl contenders. Doesn't even look like they're going to win their division at this point. And so that would make them frauds. Yes, that would make them frauds. This team that was in top 5 of the power rankings for a lot of people, myself included, at the beginning of the year. They've been nothing but disappointing. They've shown nothing but regression from last year. And it hurts to watch because I want the Browns to win football games. I root for them unless they're playing the Broncos, which, I mean, doesn't really matter. I want this team to be good. I want their fan base to see success, and maybe success in back-to-back seasons at that as well. But they're not good. They're not that good of a team. No one's as disappointed as maybe the 49ers are right now, or the Vikings are right now, or the Colts are right now. But even the Colts and Vikings might be in better situations at this point. At least they're second in their division. The Browns still have the ability to turn things around, but it's really not looking good at the moment. And they're one of the most disappointing, if not the most disappointing team in the league. Well, no, they're only one of, because the Chiefs have to be the most disappointing team in the league right now. But the Browns are definitely up there. Last statement of the week is going to be that the Lions are worse than their 0-16 team in 2008. Now, that was a really bad team, if you remember. Led by 3 starting quarterbacks in 1 year. You had Dan Orlovsky, John Kitna, and Dante Culpepper. Man, remember Dante Culpepper. He was good for a little bit. Kinda. I don't know. He was kind of fun to watch, is what I remember. It is a fairly young kid there. Their defense was ranked last. Their offense was ranked 30th. It wasn't good. 22, and your fans wearing the brown paper bags. It just was a bad look and bad time to be a Lions fan. Right now in 2021, they are currently 0-8 with their defense ranking 24th, their offense ranking 26th. So not as bad in 2008. Still not great though. The only difference here is that, and the reason why I'm going to push back against this statement, and I'm not going to buy it, obviously, because it is an overreaction at this point. The Lions have been in games this year. They've been in games. They should have won a lot of their games. Remember back to week 1, they were getting blown out by the Niners and almost came back in that one. They get blown out by the Packers. Wasn't a great game. They almost beat the Ravens. And if it wasn't for Justin frickin' Tucker setting an NFL record with a field goal, they would have won that game. Then they lose a fairly decent, I mean, it's hard to say decent when it's the Lions and Bears playing each other, but it was a somewhat decent game there. Then they lose another heartbreaker a week later against the Vikings with another field goal being kicked as time expires. Then they get blown out by the Bengals. They have a better game than I thought they would against the Rams, and then they get blown out by the Eagles. If you look at it, they really should have won 2 of these games here. At least they should be 2-6. There's an argument that they could be 3-5. I think 1-7 is a baseline here. Should be 2-6 is what their record should be at right now. So obviously this makes them better than their 0-8 team. They have a real head coach here. They have, I was going to say a real quarterback. They have a better quarterback, I guess. But also, he hasn't won a game without Sean McVay. I don't like this Jared Goff situation. The Lions have to draft a quarterback this year if we're already going to look that far forward, because that's the best thing that the drafts have to look forward to at this point, and same with their fans. But the Lions are not as bad as their 0-8 team. They're probably not going to go 0-16 this year. They still have a chance in games against the Steelers, the Bears again, hell, even the Broncos. And who knows, maybe they play the Packers last week of the season. Maybe the Packers want to rest everyone. The Lions can get a win at home to cap off the season right there. The Lions, they have between 2 and 4 games that they actually have a chance in, as well. It looks like here. It's not looking great, but the Lions should be able to win the game this year. Should be able to. I hope they're able to, because that team and that franchise and those fans deserve better, and I want to see them win. I feel bad for Lions fans. I know one of our OGs, shout out to Andrew. He is a Lions fan, and I feel bad. I just feel bad for them. It's a tough look, and I really just want to see Dan Campbell get the win. I can't imagine how excited he's going to be. I need to see that in my life. I need it now. And maybe we can get it next week. Maybe. Hard maybe, but still maybe nonetheless. Now that's going to do it for our overaction and buy or sell segment there. Let us know what you think. Drop a comment on YouTube, 5-star review over on Apple Podcasts, or hit us up on any of our socials to say to think if you are going to buy or sell that the Rams are clear Super Bowl favorites with Von Miller, that the Browns are frauds, and that the Lions are worse than their 2008 team. Now a few more things we're going to get into before we wrap up things here, ladies and gentlemen. First off is that there's a lot of teams. There's a handful of, there's a good amount of teams right now under 500. There is a handful of teams that are under 500, but still have a chance to pull something out of this year and salvage it and maybe make a run at the playoffs. So the teams that are under 500 with the best chance of making the playoffs, let's talk about them. Right now, the teams that are currently under 500 include the Jets, Dolphins, the Jags, the Texans, you can already write those two off here. No, definitely not. The Eagles, Washington, the Giants, then the Niners, the Seahawks, the Vikings, the Bears, the Lions, and then the Atlanta Falcons. And if we want to go through that list again and look at the teams that actually have a legitimate chance at being one of the better 500 teams, that's going to include the Vikings. It's going to include the Niners and Seahawks. And then no one else besides the Colts. So I'll give it to the Colts, Niners, Seahawks, and Vikings. 4 teams there that actually have a chance in making the playoffs. If you look at the ones in the best position, it probably is because, one of these teams, you're probably going to get second place in their division. So you have the Vikings and you have the Colts. Now, the Colts look real bad early on this year, but things are starting to come together. Jonathan Taylor is looking fantastic, man. I think he's second in the league in rushing yards right now. He's a threat in the passing game. Carson Wentz is loving him. They love those screens as well to him, and it's only going to show that what I said last year is that he was the maybe not the most underrated draft pick in the draft. He was definitely the best one on day 2 for sure, and he was better than a lot of the day 1 picks there as well, especially the running back position. Jonathan Taylor, steal of the draft there. He's been a phenomenal talent for the Colts, and he's really helping. Carson Wentz is looking pretty good this year too, at least in the turnover category, because he hasn't had a whole lot, or maybe in the interception category, because he hasn't had a whole lot there. He's had a lot cleaner play, and that is solely, well, maybe not solely, but that's a lot of that you got to credit and not having to run for his life every single play like he did there in Philadelphia. So it's nice to see that from Carson Wentz. It's nice to see some progression after his regression. And then on the other hand, you probably have the Vikings, who are talent-wise, they're definitely comparable to the Colts because they have a good quarterback that's slightly underrated. They have a really solid running back there. At least Dalvin Cook, when he stays healthy, a decent offensive line is going to hurt that Hunter's out for the season now. I think he tore his pec. I think that's what it was. That defense has been a bit underwhelming at times, just like the Colts has. So these are 2 really similar teams. And if you look at it, they're probably going to end up second in their division because the Vikings have to compete with the Bears and the Lions. That's not a whole lot of competition. The Colts have to compete with the Jags and the Texans. That's not a whole lot of competition. But if I had to choose between those 2, it's kind of a tough choice, to be honest. But I think I have the most faith in the Indianapolis Colts to be able to turn their season around. I have the most faith in them because I think they're still a good team. If you look at, they're still a good team. They still have talent there. They got off to a poor start, like I mentioned, and that's kind of what hurt them at the beginning because they have losses at the beginning of the season to the Seahawks wasn't a competitive game. Then you lose to the Rams at home in a competitive game there as well. That was only a 3-point margin there. And then they have to play against the Rolling Titans. They lose that one. They finally get wins over the Dolphins. They lose they really should have won this game and not even let it get overtime against the Ravens. Should have won that one. You blocked the Texans. You handled the 49ers. And then you lose another really close game to the Tennessee Titans. So this is a team that could, and that was an overtime too. This is a team that really could have 3 more wins than it really does right now. You'll count that last game against the Titans in overtime, against the Ravens, and against the Rams. This team, instead of being 3-5, could be 6-2. This team that could be tied or leading the division right now. So that's why I'm going to go with the Colts as the best team, or as the under 500 team with the best chance of making the playoffs at this point of the season. Could be the Vikings, probably going to be one of those two, but who knows? The Niners and the Seahawks definitely have the ability to surprise us there as well. Let us know. Let us know who you think is the under 500 team with the best chance of making the playoffs, and maybe drop a why as well. Would be fun to talk about that over on, like I said, YouTube comments, Apple Podcasts, or hit us up on our social media platforms. And the next one we're going to do before we get into power rankings and the nay of the week, the next thing we're going to talk about is the NFL trade deadline. It wasn't good. It wasn't exciting. There was not really a whole lot of hype going up into it this year, at least maybe not compared to some of the previous seasons. But it wasn't great. It was pretty boring, to be honest. I was trying to watch and keep up to date with it, checking on Twitter and stuff like that. Wasn't a whole lot happening. Monday, you saw Von Miller. That's the biggest move of the trade deadline. Really, the only other move that's of note is Melvin Ingram to the Chiefs. Those are really the only 2 notable trades I can name. There's a lot of guys that were dealed. A lot of guys dealed for second, third day picks, mostly the third day picks that ultimately didn't really matter too much. Not a lot of blockbusters, not a lot of headlines, not a lot of fun stuff happened. And so that was a little bit disappointing. And for the winners and losers of the trade deadline especially, I mean, it has to be the Rams. There's really no one else that can even sound like I mentioned the Chiefs, but they still have a long way to go to fix that team. And Melvin Ingram, he's an improvement on what they have. Is he a huge piece? Not necessarily. Is he a solid piece? Absolutely. Is he an impact player like Von Miller is? No, he's not. Is he going to be able to make as big of a improvement to the team and really put them over top like Von Miller was able to? No, he's not. The Chiefs still had a lot to go, and a pretty disappointing trade deadline for a lot of teams. I'll include the Chiefs on there because they should have done more. They should have done more there. I'll include the Seahawks on there, a contender that needs help, especially in that defensive secondary. The Broncos were trying to trade Kyle Fuller, and the Seahawks couldn't make a deal there. I don't even know if they were interested. They should have been, but they weren't able to get that done. The Titans, you need a running back. I love Adrian Peterson. Love him to death. He's a Hall of Famer. Easily. One of the best running backs of all time. Easily. You should trade the Broncos for Melvin Gordon. The Broncos should have been huge sellers here. I'll put them as a loser here as well because they really only got like a rookie cornerback for a 6th rounder to the Eagles and Von Miller, and that was basically it there. The Ravens, they have holes, especially in that defensive backfield. Should have filled them. I mean, Xavier Howard was on the market. He didn't do anything there. The Bucs, the most overrated team in the league right now. You could have had a chance to make a splash, maybe improve some stuff there, especially. I mean, recurring thing, that defensive backfield, you couldn't do it. The Chargers, you could have gone a running back. You could have gotten a wide receiver there. You didn't make anything happen. All disappointing. And then another huge loser is a guy that's just going to be stuck being inactive for the rest of the season in hope that he gets out of Houston there in the offseason. That's Deshaun Watson. At least he's getting paid. Because it's the Texans that aren't playing him, and it's not Deshaun Watson holding out. So he's still getting paid. Not a whole lot happening there. I'll count them in loser. And like I said, this just wasn't that great of a trade period. I was hoping for more. Maybe besides Von Miller, I was hoping for more. But we didn't get that. We'll see. There's a lot of teams that are willing, a lot of playoff contenders that are okay with staying put. We'll see if that bites in the butt or if that proves to be a good decision moving forward into the last 9 games of the NFL regular season. But there we go. Of course, drop your biggest NFL trade deadline winner and loser there everywhere, like I've mentioned. And we're going to get crack-a-lacking into the power rankings and then the nay of the week. And if you throw it back to last week, you might, especially if you listen, thank you very much, first of all, for listening. But if you tuned in, you don't know my power rankings were, and you don't know what the original ones were, but you know that they were bad. Alex didn't like them. I wasn't confident in them, and we actually changed them while recording. Didn't have to do that this week. It's a lot easier to make up my mind this week in terms of at least who should be in there. It's kind of hard on maybe the placement and the order, but I feel a lot more confident with these ones than I did with my original ones last week. But starting us off at number 5, of course, is going to be the Dallas Cowboys. They were actually number 4 last week. They get bumped down because the team moved in, and now they move into 5. The Bengals obviously get kicked out of the top 5. I was taking a little bit of a risk putting them there at 5 last week anyway. Bit me in the butt. They proved me wrong, unfortunately, because that's a fun team to watch, and they're dropping out. Cowboys at 5. Number 4, for the first time this season, or at least for a while, I'd have to throw it back there. The Arizona Cardinals are not in the 1 spot after losing against the Packers in a good game, in a close game, but still a loss nonetheless. They lose. They get bumped down to 4 because the 3 teams in front of them all won. If those teams in front of you are really good teams and are Super Bowl contenders, and they all win, and then you're the Cardinals and you lose, you're going to get put behind them because they're at number 3, jumping into the list, riding a 7-game winning streak. Aaron Rodgers really coming to play there. That's the Green Bay Packers. They're looking great. They're looking like one of the best teams, if not the best team in the NFC at this point. So you're definitely going to have to put them up there. Number 2 is going to be the Buffalo Bills because they got bumped down after a loss. They moved back up after just demolishing another team there. And I mean, it was a pretty close game. It was a pretty poor game against the Dolphins. But they come back. They have a really solid second half, and they're able to get a win here. They're able to move up to 2. And of course, the team that had a really solid win this week, a team who has the best wide receiver in football right now, the team that arguably has the best, maybe not the best, but he's definitely one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL right now. A team with a really good defense that just got a whole hell of a lot better. The LA Rams are the number 1 team in the league right now. They might be the team to beat, at least there in the NFC. As we mentioned, if you want to go hear that combo, you're just tuning, and you kind of skip through, and go ahead, go on back and listen to that one. The Rams are number 1 in the power rankings. They have to be. They're a really good team. They're playing really well. They have a really good head coach, and they now have one of the best pass rushers in the league and the best pass rusher of his era. So, like I said, dropping out this week, you had the Cincinnati Bengals. Moving down a spot was the Dallas Cowboys. Moving down a few spots was the Arizona Cardinals. And all the Packers move in. The Bills and Rams both move up a spot. Of course, we'll be dropping this on Wednesday, the same day we drop this show. So go ahead, check out that power rankings list and drop your comments and thoughts on that, whether it be on Instagram or Twitter. But ladies and gentlemen, that's just about going to do it for us this week. Before we get into the nay of the week, just want to say thank you so much for tuning in. Really do appreciate that. And while it was, for one of my buddies, I'm going to give him a special shout out because, of course, the biggest Patreon supporter, Ray Rodriguez, a shout out, and one of the real OGs, fans of this show, he's having a tough week because, like me, he's a Broncos fan. So, I mean, that goes to that saying. We lost the heart and soul of this franchise right now, and so we're both reeling from that. And then, on the same day we have that news, he has a good fantasy team this year in the league that we're playing together. He has a really solid team. But you want to know who was his first pick in the draft? Derrick Henry. So, in the span of 12 hours, less than 12 hours, he loses Von Miller and Derrick Henry. Tough Monday. It's supposed to be a victory Monday for us Bronco fans. We haven't seen that in 4 weeks, man. We needed that, and then we just go have that kind of day. So huge shout out to him because I only lost Von Miller. He also lost Derrick Henry, and that ties into our Nene of the week because the people taking home the Nene, fourth long Nene of the week award here for NFL is any Derrick Henry fantasy owner because y'all got Nene. Probably he was the best piece of that team. He's probably your key player. Y'all lose him. It's a tough week. It's a tough scene, and I really do feel bad. It sucks, man. I'm pissed too because we lose arguably the most exciting player in sports right now in Derrick Henry. We won't see him for a while. Now I think it was 6 to 10 weeks. And those are good projections as well. So it's disappointing. It hurts. It sucks. But that's NFL, I guess. But those guys definitely got named. But ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for tuning in to our Week 8 coverage, our Week 8 breakdown here. Of course, it was unfortunate not having Alex on, but like I mentioned, some other stuff. He has a real busy schedule. This isn't the thing that we primarily do. We have jobs, and a lot of times we get really busy with work. That takes precedent because that's actually what makes us money. But a way where you can help prevent that in the future is by helping us make some money off of this. And you can do that best by going on over to patreon.com/4thandlong and starting at just $1 a month up to $5 and then $10 tiers. Of course, you can donate 10 and above if you really want to feel like the greatest person in the world. Just putting that out there. You can go ahead and get started. Not only does every tier, it gives you discounts, it gives you extra behind the scenes coverage, it gives you a bunch of fun stuff and goodies. And like I said, just $1 a month. And hopefully we'll be able to, because I know it's a good show with me. I'll be, what's the word? Cocky, I guess. Fool myself. You put it that way. It's a better show with Alex. So help us prevent that in the future and start today by going over to, like I said, patreon.com/4thandlong and get started in your donations and helping keep the show funded as well. In that same note, you have to have a huge shout out to our Patreon supporters. Like I mentioned in the Nene segment, poor Ray, but shout out to Ray. And for all your card collecting needs, go on over to Instagram and follow at the Big Bat Box. Shout out to Ryan Watson and Neil Wiley as well. And I just gotta tell you, if you're on video, you probably see the weekly whiteboard there in the background. I'm going to leave you guys off with the 4th and Long official word of the week, and that word is agony. Have a good rest of your week, everyone, especially if you're a Broncos fan. You need a better one, but go out, have a great day, do great things, and we will see all of you next week.